Welcome everyone to Monday Morning Morons for December 3rd, 2018. As you know, I was off for the Thanksgiving week, which meant 2 Mondays without a video for you. The time off was nice, but we're back now, so let's jump right back into the stupid. And I apologize in advance for any background noise you might hear. I'm behind schedule here and can't really record at an optimal time. I'll cut out what I can, but if some gets through the filters, well, sorry about that. Okay, Bob, what's first? How Donald Trump appeals to men secretly insecure about their manhood. Oh, I sense an aneurysm coming. Is this from the fucking Guardian, Bob? Oh, well, I guess the Washington Post is giving up on trying to be a real news outlet too, then. This is the kind of shit I'd expect to find in a gossip rag, not a legitimate news source. From boasting about the size of his penis on national television to releasing records of his high testosterone levels, President Trump's rhetoric and behavior exude machismo. His behavior also seems to have struck a chord with some male voters. See, for example, the Donald Trump, finally someone with balls t-shirts common at Trump rallies. But our research suggests that Trump is not necessarily attracting male supporters who are as confidently masculine as the president presents himself to be. Instead, Trump appears to appeal more to men who are secretly insecure about their manhood. We call this the fragile masculinity hypothesis. Here is some of our evidence. Research. Call it a hunch, but I just have this sneaky suspicion that you're really stretching the meaning of that word here. What is fragile masculinity? Well, self-esteem, self-respect, self-reliance, personal responsibility. Basically any trait that prevents a man from groveling at your altar of man-bad, woman-weak. Research shows that many men feel pressure to look and behave in stereotypically masculine ways, or risk losing their status as real men. Masculine expectations are socialized from early childhood and can motivate men to embrace traditional male behaviors while avoiding even the hint of femininity. This unforgiving standard of maleness makes some men worry they're falling short. These men are said to experience fragile masculinity. In the interest of fairness, let's take a short trip down this sidetrack and have a look at this research you're linking. Hidden behind a paywall. Go figure. Well then, all I've got to go on is the abstract, which I suspect is all you read anyway, so pretty sure we're on a level playing field here. The difference being that you are apparently inclined to believe this abstract, I'm inclined to question it. Unfortunately, because this research is evidently so fucking valuable, I'm not allowed to read it without giving them money, which makes it immediately suspect in my book. So much research is already paid for by federal tax dollars in the form of grants, and most researchers are already paid by the institutions that employ them. So I wonder then, what makes these conclusions so valuable that they need to be hidden behind paywalls? Is this so-called truth so profound that it'd be dangerous to let just anyone read it? Gotta stick it behind a paywall to make sure only wealthy people can discover the supposed truths you discovered. Dubious, to say the least. Precarious manhood. The authors report 5 studies that demonstrate that manhood, in contrast to womanhood, is seen as a precarious state requiring continual social proof and validation. And after just one sentence, we've already arrived at the first blip on the bullshit detector. According to you, women do not suffer from social pressure while men do. Now, never mind that this totally obliterates your women are victims narratives, but anyone who thinks women don't exert and receive social pressure to perform femininity doesn't live in reality. I mean, shit, feminists have built an entire fucking industry to complain about this exact thing. So no idea what planet you performed this research on, but apparently it wasn't Earth. It is true that, thanks to the so-called women's revolution, women are free to express a wider and more diverse range of emotions and interests than they used to be. But also, thanks to women's revolution, men cannot. You see, folks, the fundamental fact that you're missing here is that men do not define what is or is not acceptable traits of manhood. Women do, by deciding what they are or are not attracted to. We saw this phenomena many times before. In the late 80s, early 90s, for example, with the trendy metrosexual craze. Millions upon millions of men began shaving their body hair, wearing button-down shirts, and talking about how sensitive they were, because that is what women said they wanted. To no one's real surprise, a few short years later, article after article, TV program after TV program, began the steady drumbeat of, where have all the real men gone? Buyer's remorse. Women got what they asked for, and they hated it. They started exerting their social pressure to change us all into lumberjacks with bushy beards, flannel shirts, and work boots. And just like that, like magic, men began to act and dress more rough and rugged. You see, morons, men don't decide what women want. Women do. And like giant fucking idiots, men keep jumping from one foot to the other, trying to keep up with your rapidly changing trends, just to impress you, only to find out by the time we've adapted, you don't want that anymore. Enter the next trend. You're ignoring basic biology here. Men spend their entire lives trying to attract women. Well, to be fair, most men anyway. To do so, we have to keep trying to appeal to what you say you want. You set the mating rules. We don't. It's a power women have had, basically, since we stopped clubbing you over the head and dragging you back to our caves, and it's far more powerful than you dumb fucks will ever admit to having, because you keep insisting on your paradigm of man bad, woman weak, and dismissing anything that might challenge that. Now, given the very first sentence of this so-called research is so objectionable, and in my opinion just flat out wrong, and I can't read the methods used to arrive at such a conclusion, I've no choice here but to simply dismiss your so-called research without further discussion. So, back to the original article. The political process provides a way that fragile men can reaffirm their masculinity by supporting tough politicians and policies. Men can reassure others, and themselves, of their own manliness. Stop. No. Just no. Men do not reassure their own masculinity by reassuring other men's masculinity. That's just no. Men want to be king of the hill. It's our natural instinct to compete and win to show we are superior to other men. Again, we're diving into the realm of basic biology here. You don't get to the top of the hill by pushing another guy up there. That's just not how it works. Whether or not Donald Trump is a super duper manly man has absolutely no bearing on whether or not I am. Hell, Hillary Clinton is more dominant and controlling than I am. Traits you twats keep insisting are masculine traits. Does voting for her make men feel more secure in their masculinity? I suspect you'd say it does not. So the whole premise here falls flat. If we were indeed just voting for more masculine traits to feel secure, then we'd have been just as likely to vote for Hillary, wouldn't we? We wanted to see whether fragile masculinity was associated with how Americans vote, and specifically whether it was associated with greater support for Trump in 2016 general election and for Republicans in the 2018 midterm elections. Full stop. You went looking for correlation, not causation. I want you to remember that when you start drawing your conclusions. At no point were you even trying to understand why men vote the way they do. You are simply looking at what they voted for and then trying to tie that to some random bullshit psychobabble in the desperate attempt to suggest causation to people too stupid to understand the difference. Measuring fragile masculinity poses a challenge. I'll bet it does, with a broad, wishy-washy, very poorly defined term that you just made up, especially when you are deciding the motive for other people's actions. We could not simply do a poll of men who might not honestly answer questions about their deepest insecurities. Instead, we relied on Google Trends, which measures the popularity of Google search terms. Wait. You mean to tell me that this research about men's motivation for doing something didn't even ask men at all. You went to Google Trends, which, I mean, I don't know if you know this or not, but Google is used by women too, you fucking morons. So you went to Google to find out what men and women searched for, then decided that these trends represent what men think. Okay, nope, done, no more. I don't need to read one more sentence of this so-called research. I don't give a flying fuck what you found from here on, as it's clear you found exactly what you wanted to find. Your premise is questionable, and your method is highly suspect, so your conclusions are worthless. You've wasted your time, and quite enough of mine. I am increasingly flabbergasted by the number of PhD and PhD candidates who are supposed to be very well-educated people, yet spit out paper after paper of farcical bullshit like this. I mean, what the hell? Do they not even teach people how to do research anymore? We consulted Google searches. Fuck's sake. Next, you're going to tell me that everyday feminism is a reliable source for men's rights research. Moving on. What else have you got for us, Bob? Donald Trump is destroying my marriage. Jesus, Mary, Joseph, and a fucking camel. Unless your name just happens to be Melania Trump, I highly fucking doubt it. Shortly after the election is when I became aware of it, says Louis Brenner, a New York-based divorce attorney. People were thinking about splitting up their marriages because of political differences. She'd never encountered this before, but she's since found herself litigating 2 such divorces. After people got over their shock, she says, they started arguing. Then these people didn't love each other and shouldn't have gotten married in the first place. Couples argue. It's a basic fucking fact that was true long before Trump and will be true long after he's gone. And if you can't argue and still love and respect each other, then Trump is not your problem. You are. Every marriage counselor will tell you this shit. It's why they ask you about it in the first place. Couples who don't argue are in deep shit down the road. Couples who do not learn how to argue are headed for divorce. Time for a little reality check marriage counseling from the Count. Because I'm totally a fucking expert on that shit. 2 people, no matter how much you love and respect each other, will never agree on everything. If you cannot learn to resolve your differences in a constructive manner and compromise, or at least respect your differences, you are going to end up hating each other. It's inevitable. If you have never had a fight with your girlfriend or boyfriend, you are not ready for marriage yet. Because that will happen sooner or later. And you need to know how you're both going to deal with it before you take that step. If you find that you two cannot deal with it, then walk away now because divorce will happen. I don't care how it happens. Pick a damn fight if you have to, but do it before you walk down the aisle. If you find that one person in your relationship is always backing down, walk away, because sooner or later, that person is going to start feeling oppressed in your relationship, and they will resent you for it down the road. It may feel nice to always get your way, but don't forget, there's another person here with thoughts, hopes, desires, opinions, and dreams of their own. No one can suppress their own personality forever. Sooner or later, those opinions, desires, goals, whatever, will come to the surface and demand attention. Perhaps the easiest one to understand is infidelity. The cheating doesn't start because your partner is fucking happy. It doesn't even start because they hate you. It starts because for too long, they have not been getting what they really want. They've been compromising too much for too long. They have suppressed their own desire too much just to keep the peace, so to speak. That will not last forever. Sooner or later, they will go looking for that thing somewhere else, and it's not always about sex either. Especially true for women, but men also. Sometimes it's just a matter of not feeling valued anymore. Your partner wants to feel needed and appreciated. If they don't, they will find that feeling somewhere else. Count on it. No matter how amiable, permissive, or even submissive you think your partner is, remember, your partner is not a mindless manifestation of everything you want. They have minds of their own, and they want something too. If you expect a relationship to be all about you, then you are the fucking problem, not Trump or anyone else. You. Okay, sidetracked slightly there. Back to this ludicrous article. And I'm skipping the rest of the introduction in the interest of speeding this shit up a bit. Feel free to read it yourself if you like, but I want to get to the stories from these people. Now, bear with me because this is probably going to be rather long, but I suspect that's where the truly funny shit is going to be. And as we read, do try to remember the point of the article. This is all Trump's fault. Kristen, St. Louis, Missouri, 56. Growing up, my parents were very liberal. My dad's gay. He's been with his husband now for over 40 years. That was my normal. My mom remarried a guy who's very liberal. I was taught that everybody is equal. But when I was at school, I heard the N-word dropped. I heard Jewish people spoken of very negatively. My stepdad's family was Jewish. So what do? You kind of laugh it off to fit in. In high school, I also had a major drinking problem, but I got great grades so I could fly under the radar. Fast forward, I was an art major at this big university where I really didn't fit in. All these girls had curling irons and were rushing sororities, but again, I didn't want to rock the boat. So I just kept partying more. Then at the end of the year, I was raped at a fraternity house and didn't say anything about it. Well, this has fuck all to do with anything at this point, and certainly jack shit to do with Trump, but thank you so much for sharing your bona fides just in case we had any doubt about how liberal you really are. I mean, all you've really said so far is, I was a drunken sheep trying to fit in. Well, bravo, so brave. So I go home and I meet this guy. I'll call him Jeffrey. He was a big Republican and I wasn't, but he was also a big drinker like me. We started dating. It was kind of revenge that I could get a guy like the guy who raped me. I could get him to be nice to me. Warning, Will Robinson. Warning. Already your relationship is in trouble because, according to you, the best thing about him is he drinks, like you do. Not exactly what I'd call the harbinger of a successful relationship, but do go on. Still waiting to hear how any of this shit is Trump's fault. Looking back, it was all very strange, but then Jeffrey and I broke up. Big fucking shocker there. And I got married and then had my son, and that relationship lasted for about 14 years. After we got divorced, I got sober. So, still a drunk when she was married to this other guy, and that relationship ended in divorce. Yep, this is me, totally fucking surprised again. And then, in 2010, I found Jeffrey on Facebook. It looked like he was single and had grown up a lot, and we started talking. We had a good time together. I didn't really want to get married again, but I didn't want to make anybody mad, so I said, sure, let's get married. Wow. So many red flags here, I'm not even sure which one I should point out. First, we reconnected with this big Republican you knew years ago. You didn't agree with him then, you just dated because you were both drunks. What the hell made you think you'd agree with him now? Secondly, you've just admitted that you didn't want to get married, and yet you did it anyway. That's the most toxic pill you could possibly have dropped into this Kool-Aid. You were already out before you even got in. That's got nothing to do with Jeffrey, and certainly fuck all to do with Trump, but do go on. When Michael Brown was killed in Ferguson, it was a wake-up call. I couldn't believe that the cops left his body lying on the road for hours. You mean, until now, you had absolutely no fucking idea how an investigation works. Well, glad you finally got that wake-up call then. I also felt embarrassed that this was the first time I was seeing this. Where the hell had I been? In a drunken stupor your whole life, by the sounds of it. I never went to the protests, though, because Jeffrey didn't want me to. And instead of saying, screw you, I said, I'll protest in my heart. Some stupid shit. That was when I started feeling resentment. Resentment because you didn't do what you wanted to do. Folks, remember what I said about your partner having their own minds? Exhibit A. And now the seed of destruction has taken root. Not because of Trump, not because of racism, not because of police, not because of Michael fucking Brown. No, because you wanted something he doesn't. And instead of talking about it, coming to a compromise, and respecting each other's opinions, you caved and you hate him for it. Divorce court, here we come. I don't think Jeffrey voted for Trump, but he might have voted for John Kasich or Jeb Bush. I think they're all idiots. Completely irrelevant, but gotta squeeze in that virtue signal, huh? Well, congrats, we caught it. Yay, you! So brave, you're a hero now. But I didn't get involved in the Hillary campaign. I just knew she'd win. Thank you for being so naive. So when she didn't, I fell into this black hole, and have stayed there ever since. Then, in January 2017, I was watching Rachel Maddow. No one should be watching Rachel Maddow. And this guy, Ezra Levin, popped up, explaining how he and a bunch of ex-congressional staffers had put together a manifesto about how to talk to congresspeople. I thought, shit, it's a workbook, and I've always been good at workbooks. Good grief. So I started a group called Indivisible St. Louis. I think Jeffrey figured it would be like the needlepoint pillow I never finished. But we started having meetings. We decided to have a march to protest this Muslim ban. You mean the not Muslim ban, of course. The one written by Barack Obama's administration, but not signed until Trump took over. Yeah, thought you were just going to slip that little lie right by us, didn't you? Sorry, dear, we caught it. All of a sudden, I was in charge of a march for 1,000 people. I bought poster board, we made signs in Starbucks. The day of the march, I said to Jeffrey, hey, come with me. He said, no, that's okay. How much money did you spend on that poster board? Seems like a legitimate question for a husband to ask, considering you've just wasted joint funds on some paper that's going to be used for a couple hours, then thrown away. I was really energized. The people I was meeting were so bright and interesting. The world opened up. I thought, oh my God, I've got so much reading to do. Yes, you do. But I suspect you're going to limit that reading to only those things that reinforce what you already think. The world didn't open up, dear. You just closed the doors. Every week, I was also going to Missouri Senator Roy Blunt's office with a group of people. Productive. Makes me wonder, though, when do you work? Or do you? Might help explain your husband's question about the money you've wasted if it was all his, wouldn't it? I took a class called Witnessing Whiteness and realized that racism is at the core of the problem of this country, and that the only thing I can do to be an ally is show up and shut up. You really didn't see it, did you? How adorable. Let me clue you in then, dear. You've just told us that you've spent the better part of your life not doing what you wanted, following the crowd, just trying to fit in. Then you had this marvelous revelation where the whole world opened up before you, and you took a class where they told you to shut the fuck up and just go along with the crowd. You, my dear, are a fucking rocket scientist. Jeffrey never went to one rally or meeting. He just didn't care. When I left for a protest after former St. Louis police officer Jason Stockley wasn't indicted for murdering another African-American kid, Jeffrey was like, have fun. It was so tone deaf. Okay, another lie by omission here. Stockley didn't murder Anthony Smith. He and his partner witnessed Smith doing a drug deal. Smith rammed their police car twice and then tried to escape. When finally stopped, Stockley ordered Smith out of the vehicle, at which point Smith began reaching for something in the car. Stockley then shot him, and as it turns out, there was a gun hidden between the seats. This is why Stockley was not indicted. justified shooting. Why in fuck's name you people insist on flat out lying about these cases is beyond me. There are, after all, plenty of cases of wrongful shooting to pick and choose from. You'd make a much better case for yourself and your cause if you stuck to those rather than lying about the other cases. I'm just saying. As for Jeffrey here, what's wrong with what he said? You're going out there to what's basically a damn social event anyway, and he hopes you enjoy yourself while you pointlessly run around screaming lies. What should he have said? Bye, hope you get arrested for being so fucking dumb. Things started falling apart at home. Wrong. Things continued to fall apart at home. You already told us you didn't want to get married in the first place, so things clearly started off on rocky shores. And you've already told us that you began to resent him after you didn't protest the Michael Brown shit show. So things were already falling apart at home. Then a girlfriend of mine got cancer, and I realized if I got cancer, I would have lived my whole life pretending to be something I'm not. All of a sudden, I thought, I can't be married anymore. There's no time for complicity. There's just none. I'm sorry. But how does I can't be married anymore logically follow if I got cancer? I mean, we're long past me expecting you to be at all logical, but I can't even get there emotionally. And no time for complicity, you say. So I'm guessing you've already forgotten your witnessing whiteness course, huh? Because that's exactly what you told us you learned from it. How to shut up and be complicit. You're not very good at this, are you? Jeffrey was absolutely shocked. He said, "Are you 1,000% certain?" I said, "I am." I told him I really wanted to work on making the world a better place, and I didn't feel I could do that within the confines of our marriage. He downloaded a divorce agreement, and we went to the notary public at the UPS store. The music playing, get this, was Landslide by Fleetwood Mac and White Wedding by Billy Idol. I left feeling free, like in high school when your parents are out of town. I'd found a passion and wanted to spend all of my free time doing it, and that's exactly what happened. Wait. He downloaded a divorce agreement, signed it, and you got it notarized at UPS. Well, shit. Sounds to me like he wasn't really fucking broken up about your decision either. Sounds like he was totally prepared and more than happy to oblige. It's kind of sad that in this horrible time I found myself, but I'm also grateful both for what I had with Jeffrey and for where it allowed me to end up. Finally, I'm the feminist I should have always been. Well, congrats to you then. You wanted to be quiet and fit in with the crowd, and now you've gotten your wish. Bravo, congrats, and all that. Personally, I'm amazed someone can make it to 56 years old and still be this fucking stupid, but, how does any of this shit have to do with Trump again? You yourself just told us that your marriage was shit before Trump ever came around. That it fell apart has fuck all to do with him. Sarah, Southwest, 30s. My husband and I got married a year after we met. Danger sign number 1. Rushed into what's supposed to be a lifetime commitment. Not impossible for that to work out, but highly unlikely. So we'll just call that strike 1, shall we? Eventually, we landed in the Southwest, where we have family. Our lives weren't any kind of fairy tale, but it was a normal life. Where we both agree is the problems, the kind that make you think you need to separate, began after the 2016 election when I ramped up my political activism. Well, at least this one's trying to blame Trump anyway. Not like the last one, who just openly told us it's got fuck all to do with him. I suspect yours doesn't either, but let's see how you try to connect the dots first. What's funny is talking about the Trump election makes me more emotional than the end of my marriage. Strike number 2 here. If a guy you don't know and never met parking his ass in a chair you'll likely never see means more to you than the person you at least once claimed to love, then you are the problem, not him. I'd been drinking from the data Kool-Aid on how utterly unavoidable Clinton's win was, and I volunteered to be an election site partner. I was going to be part of the process that elected the first woman president. This is so dorky, but I even wore white in honor of suffragettes. Yep, dorky. But don't you worry, dear, I'm sure you've done and said far dumber shit since then. By the time I walked out of the polling center, though, Donald Trump was the presumptive winner. It was crushing. Crushing. Seriously, listening to you dimwits describe your overly emotional butthurt from simply losing an election never gets old. Always makes me laugh. Crushing. Through grad school, I'd been busy, but I was still around for dinner. I'd still sit on the couch and binge watch TV. After the election, though, the moment our kids were in bed, I'd hop on the computer or on the phone. Politically, my husband and I are completely aligned, but he was lonely. He felt I was always gone, and even when I was there, I was preoccupied. Whereas our kids don't feel this as much. They often come with me and have tons of little activist kid friends. They know all the other activist women's dogs' names. They know we go to basketball some nights and other nights to rallies or politicians' offices. Strike 3 right here. Remember what I said earlier? Your partner, male or female, doesn't matter, wants to feel needed and appreciated. You aren't making him feel either of those things right now. You, by your own admission, are preoccupied with you, and you're leaving him out. Divorce court, here we come. That's not how my husband wants to spend his time. He'd say, yeah, I love a strong woman. Everything she's doing is badass. I'm super proud of her, but I want her to do a little less of it. For me, the fact that he's so uninterested in what I'm doing has fundamentally changed the way I see our partnership. Wrong. Your own words, he's supportive of what you're doing. He just wants some of you too. You are giving your all to people you don't know and ignoring him. Again, not my assumption here, your words. My husband's in the military and has had 2 wartime deployments, and afterward we went to counseling. As is fairly common, it took some time for him to acclimate into civilian life. But we haven't even talked about trying that now. I think we understand this is an essential disconnect. It's down to the core of who we are, and I don't have a problem with who I am. It breaks my heart whenever he says he's lonely, but again, I'm like, you don't have to be lonely if you want to put up street signs with me. Warning flag again, and you don't see it, do you? What you've just told him is, suck it up and do what I want. How very compassionate of you. You're lying to yourself here. Your heart is not breaking when he says he's lonely. If it did, you'd be listening, but you aren't. You're still demanding more me, less you. Part of it is that he has the perspective that this too shall pass. In my opinion, that comes from the privilege he has as a white male Protestant. And it's over. Done. Case closed. Line up the appointment in divorce court because there is no reconciling here. You have now decided that he's not even a person anymore. You have decided that what he thinks, feels, expresses are because of what he is, not who he is. You have reduced him to a demographic. Nothing more. But I have family members who are Muslim, so when the Muslim ban happened, that was a direct rejection of my family and friends. Nope. Look, I didn't let the last one slide that lie by us. You don't get to either. 2 of the 7 countries on that list aren't even majority Muslim, and there are many majority Muslim countries not on the list. So, Muslim ban doesn't even make sense now, does it, you propaganda-parroting bullshit artist? And of course, the same is true for sexual abuse and threats to reproductive freedoms. None of which has been threatened, by the way. Also, the activism I do is very gendered. Well, there's a fucking shock. Who could have ever guessed? Again, I'd describe my husband as a feminist, but he doesn't want to be the only dude in the room, which bleeds into why I've never thought, maybe I should just stop all this and save my marriage. That would teach our kids something I don't want to teach them. It almost feels like the 2018 version of the woman who gives up her career to stay home. Moron! Table for one. Look, you fucking idiot. You just told us that he supports what you're doing. God knows why, considering what you're doing is campaigning to make him a second-class citizen at best and castrated slave at worst, but whatever. He supports you. You said so. All he is asking for is that you share some of your time with him instead of making him an afterthought to your gender crusade. And you are still sitting there saying, but if he'd just chop off his nuts and crawl around on the floor begging for my attention like a good little bitch, you'd still fucking ignore him because you are a self-centered bitch. Sorry, but there's just no other way to slice this onion. You care about you, not him. And just in case anyone thinks I'm jumping to conclusions about someone I don't know, this next paragraph is really going to drive home that point. He does take care of our children so that I can be at political meeting until 9:30 on a weeknight. And he sees that as him putting skin in the game. That is absolutely true, but it doesn't feel like enough, especially with our military background. See? He is picking up the slack at home so you can run about on your ideological crusade to make him irrelevant, and you are still bitching that that's not enough. I'm like, dude, during your deployments, I was a single parent. He met our first child when he was just a few months old and left again when our second was super young. And I didn't consider that anything special. You are a cunt. To even think you can compare those two things on a level playing field shows just how fucking self-righteous you are. Did you, during all that time, even remotely consider how he felt about those deployments? Did it occur to your entirely self-absorbed fucking pea-brain that he might not want to leave the people he fucking cares about? Did it occur to you that these deployments might have been hard on him? Fuck no. Who am I kidding? It's all about you, isn't it, you pampered little bitch? That's it. You're done. Not even going to read the rest of your shit. You done pissed me off now. Fuck you and the horse you rode in on. I hope you live a long life full of misery and loneliness, you miserable wretch of a human being. You don't deserve anyone, and you certainly don't deserve him. For your husband, run, my man. Run away as fast as your legs can carry you. This bitch doesn't deserve your time or allegiance. It will suck for a while because you clearly care about her, and I'm sorry for that part, but get out of there and find someone who can care about someone else instead of just herself. You deserve better, and she deserves nothing. Now then, who's next? Samantha and John, both 50, New York City. Samantha, we've been married 25 years, and we're both lefties, and he thinks Trump is as much of a blight on the world as I do. But throughout the hiring of the Steve Munchins of the world, the white privileged men, and with every single cabinet member and Jared Kushner and Ivanka, he had much less rage than I did. Eventually, he was like, we can't go to bed talking about them and wake up in the morning with you still spewing about them. So you both agree Trump is Satan and white men are evil, but he's not as emotionally unstable about it as you are. Well, I think we might have spotted the problem, don't you? I've worked in Hollywood for 20 years. Nope. Done. Skipping. I am not going to listen to Hollywood progressives about any of this shit. You people are as delusional as it gets. I don't know if it's something in the water or the damn Dom Perignon you dipshits guzzle at your fancy fucking parties, but clearly you've all lost your fucking minds. You dumb fucks are the elite telling us average Joes that the elites are evil and we should rise up against the elites and demand the elites be put in charge. It's fucking comical how out of touch you psychos are these days. To you and all the other Hollywood shits, I say, piss off. I don't care what you think. You mean nothing to me. You are a voice on a TV or movie screen, saying things other people wrote for you to say. You are not the ventriloquist, you are the dummy. I have no idea what you're going to say here, and I don't care enough to even read it. I'm pretty fucking sure your relationship's got jack shit to do with Trump either way, so next. Elizabeth, 50, Surprise, Arizona. My husband and I met when we were 13 and literally grew up together. Our backgrounds are pretty different. I'm Anglo and he's Hispanic and has family who are not legal. And why not? We're talking about 37 fucking years since you met this guy. Are you telling me that in 37 years, his family couldn't get their paperwork straightened out? Or is it more likely that they haven't tried and just said, fuck it? I also grew up more upper class, and he grew up poor economically. We're both registered Democrats, but honestly, he's apolitical. If it weren't for me saying when we both got driver's license, you will register to vote, he wouldn't have registered. Well, I'm already getting the sense of who is the dominant personality in this relationship. I've got my hunches already, but let's see how that plays out, shall we? We've been married for 25 years, and for most of it we subscribe to the idea that you don't talk about politics and religion around the dinner table. My husband would say, don't talk about politics, I don't care. I'd say, what do you mean you don't care? I think it comes down to how we were raised. My parents always told me, if you don't like something, do something. But with his parents, it was like, oh well, there's nothing we can do. Well, if his parents can't be bothered to become legal immigrants, then they're right. There's nothing they can do. So they're not wrong, are they? And evidently, it's a foreign concept to you, but believe it or not, some people are really not that invested in politics. They just want to be left alone to live their lives. Hard concept to grasp for people like us who eat, sleep, and breathe this shitstorm all day, every day, but they're out there. And there's millions of them. You can recognize them when elections come around. They're the people not pissed off about spending 4 hours in a damn line to cast their ballot because they just don't vote. And honestly, they're probably a lot happier people than the rest of us. He's a high school physical education teacher, and one day before the teacher's walkout where we live, he came home and said, this walkout is real. It's happening. I thought, oh shit, how long will this go on? Is it going to impact his paycheck? Enough of being this nice wife who will go along to get along. Wait. Holy hell, that was a big-ass jump there. Either your brain just skipped 12 chapters, or someone in the editing department just chopped a fuckload of stuff out of your letter. For example, at what point did we establish that you were a go-along-to-get-along person? You just told us that you are the one that's absorbed with politics, and he isn't. So now, he's caught up in a walkout, and all of a sudden, you decide it's time to get involved? As in you weren't, but you will now. And he is involved, but never wanted to be. I'm so confused. After that, I was at the Capitol every day. I was posting on social media. My first public Facebook post about politics, I immediately got hacked and got death threats. Sure you did. Calling bullshit on that one, Toots. But go on, tell us all about how you're a martyr. He was like, that's what you get for getting involved. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm doing this for your job. He was like, and I was like, good grief. You were one of those 80s fucking Valley Girl types, weren't you? Like, oh my God, I'm for so sure. School, kids. Pay attention in English class, so at least you don't sound like a dumbass, even if you are. Another of our things is I'd be on my way out of the door and I'd say, get the bail money ready. He'd say, you can make yourself look a fool and get yourself on the news if you want, but I'm not bailing you out of jail. Well, good for him. You don't need bail money if all you're doing is protesting. You do need bail money if you're going out there to do something illegal. That you're planning to need bail money tells us which you're trying to do, doesn't it? He was also annoyed I wasn't doing as much stuff around the house. I've been disabled for 6 years, so I've been able to make breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day and keep the house clean. He's gotten spoiled. Uh-huh. So from the way you worded this, I can only assume that all of the household income is supplied by him and you don't work. He isn't spoiled. He expects you to do your part. Evidently, you're not contributing anything from outside the household, so you should be supplying the support from within it. I mean, only seems fair, don't you think? We went through a really, really tough time. We got to where he'd come home and go into the bedroom and slam the door. I'd sit on the couch in the living room and obsessively watch Rachel Maddow. Again, no one should be watching Rachel Madcow. Nothing good ever comes from that, especially when you watch her obsessively. You're extremely likely to become as batshit crazy as she is. The tipping point came after my daughter was sexually assaulted. Afterward, I didn't want her to leave the house. I was obsessing about it. So I put myself in counseling and realized something I'd suppressed, which is that when I was 16, I had a date rape situation and that doing politics was a way to take back my power. Well, that's convenient. I just got raped. Better go into politics. That'll make me feel better. That seems entirely illogical to me. But sure, we'll go with that conveniently suppressed and totally not just made up on the spot memory. Why not? Really sells the I'm a victim angle you're going for. Finally, I asked my husband if he'd go to one of my counseling sessions with me, and I explained how important all this was to me and why. And since I love him and he loves me, it was a matter of him understanding that. Now he's getting more informed. He'll see things about border security in particular that he knows aren't true. His grandmother's house literally faces the border. And I'll say, do you want the data to combat it? It's still a balancing act, but at least he gets it. He grumbles when he helps me put yard signs in the car, but afterward, he asks how it went. Huh. So, your relationship is actually better than it was before, huh? Well, good for you and all, but still has fuck all to do with Trump. Not to mention, even if it did, this article is about how Trump is supposedly destroying relationships, not making them better. Looks like your letter got shoved into the wrong pile in New York, huh? Are there any more? Betsy, Brooklyn, 52. Fucking hell. When I said I was going to do this, I had no idea how many of these whiny cunts there really were. I don't know how much more of this retarded shit I can take. And by the way, anyone else noticed the remarkable similarity in ages here? Aside from the one letter from a 30-something, these have all been early 50s writers. They aren't even the god-awfully mentally handicapped millennials we spend so much time laughing at. These are mostly Gen Xers. You know, the morons responsible for teaching the millennial morons all this Marxist progressive shit. Oh yeah, don't think I forgot about you either, Gen Xers. This retarded shit is your fault, you know. These are your kids, and you taught them this entitled horse shit with your participation trophies and self-esteem workshops and it takes a village nonsense. Now, granted, the millennials have totally run off the deep end into crazy town, but you assholes lined them up and pointed them in the direction to jump. It's your fault too. Anyway, let's hear what this bitter old biddy has to say. I've been sexually assaulted and raped, but for a long time I didn't identify in that way. I didn't like the idea of seeing myself as a victim. But then I found out how powerful victimhood is these days and decided I've just got to get me a piece of that shit, right? It's only recently, with the amount of coverage sexual assault has been getting, that I've realized, oh, if I verbally dissented just because I didn't fight someone off doesn't mean I wasn't assaulted or raped. Oh. So you were retroactively raped because we've decided to obscure the definition and meaning of consent so that now what happened to you then wasn't just unfulfilling sex you weren't happy with, now it's rape. Great. Progressive, folks. Retroactively creating more victims by the minute. My husband and I have been together 14 years, and I've mentioned it vaguely, but I've never given him details, partly because one of the guys is still in my life, and they're kind of friends. Uh-huh. You're still friends with your supposed rapist. Pretty big fucking clue it wasn't rape, don't you think? Frankly, I'm so afraid he'd see it more from the boys' point of view. When things come up, like with Garrison Keillor or John Hockenberry, I think there's a part of him that thinks it could have been misconstrued flirting. He often is empathetic for the guys, and I have a lot more empathy for women. Unsurprising, really. Most of us are like that. Probably because we can't actually talk about this shit with each other anymore. You see, now, any man anywhere who doesn't automatically agree that every single sexual encounter that ever happened in the entire history of the world was rape is a misogynist. Any man who even asks a fucking question about an accusation of rape is labeled a sexist pig and shamed out of the conversation altogether. When one side is allowed to say whatever they like, whether it's true or not, and the other side isn't allowed to say shit besides, I agree, doesn't really lead to honest conversations now, does it? Recently, we had some friends over for dinner, and we had an argument about whether this kind of trial by mob that's happened in the press is unfair. $20 says I know where this is going. My friends, a man and a woman, took the position that a man shouldn't have his reputation ruined because of an allegation. I disagreed, and as the conversation kept going, I got upset. Pay up, fuckers. Finally, I said it's obvious none of them have ever been sexually assaulted, and I think the statistics bear out that women never get due process when they've accused someone. Wrong. Due process does not mean lock 'em up because I said so. There's your problem, dear. You're confusing justice with vengeance. They are not the same thing. Learn the damn difference. My line is, cultural change is like a steamroller. It flattens distinctions, and some people will get hurt, and I'm okay with that. And that is why you're a psycho. You don't give a fuck who gets hurt so long as you benefit. That's not justice, fruitcake. And by the way, if I might say, what a remarkably stupid phrase. Flattening distinctions is not a good thing, idiot. Imagine no distinction between crimes. A crime is a crime is a crime. Well then, fucking death penalty to that poor woman over there who stole a loaf of bread to feed a hungry kid. She's exactly the same as fucking Ted Bundy now, isn't she? See the problem now, moron? Distinctions matter. Later, my husband told me he thought my intellectual points were good. Well, either you had better ones than that, or your husband is just as fucking stupid as you are. But he didn't respond to the emotional outburst I had. I think it's hard for him to see me hurt, so he tries to intellectualize it. But really, I wish he would feel like, fuck those guys. I want to punch them. How dare someone treat the woman I love like this? I hate that happened to you. That's what I'm looking for. Uh-huh. Well, that's interesting. What you want is the stereotypical violent masculine response to someone hurting the people we care about. You're sitting there right now asking for so-called toxic masculinity. Let that sink in, Toots. Now try to square that with the feminists castigating us for being men. My husband doesn't really know how to support me in this moment. It's easier to sort things out with girlfriends who've had similar experiences. But it's also weird to be going through your day holding back tears or texting frantically with girlfriends and to not talk about that with the person you live with. He just doesn't seem like the right person, though. I mean, I wrote to the man who assaulted me, the one who's still in our lives. He said he didn't remember, and then it turned his stomach to think I'd been carrying around this thought about him, but he fell short of accepting responsibility. I wasn't going to share that with my husband. I don't think he can understand. But it also seems like I've set the stage, so there's eventually going to be a big reveal, and my husband better respond correctly. We're going to go to counseling to address it. Yeah, just don't see it, do you? Too wrapped up in your own head. What you've just demanded, dear, is for him to react the way you would. He's not a puppet, hun. Just because he deals with things differently than you do doesn't mean he's not upset by them. It doesn't mean he doesn't care about them. It means, and this is really going to grind your nerves, but it means he's not you. It's really just that fucking simple. If you want to know what he thinks or how he feels about something, ask him. Quit trying to be a fucking mind reader and assuming that his mind is the same as yours. It isn't. It never will be. And again, what the ever-loving fuck does any of this shit have to do with Trump? Seriously, New York Magazine, did you assholes forget that your own damn article is supposed to be about here? None of these has one tiny little sliver of shit to do with Trump. None. Okay, that's it. Please, no more. How many? Oh, well, there's only one more, but fuck that, I've had enough. Feel free to read it yourself, but let's just summarize the last one, shall we? Craig and Debbie are both therapists. They met 3 years ago, and Craig got all goo-goo gaga, sappy, I couldn't care less shit. But oh, there's a twist. Debbie is a conservative, and Craig is a raving liberal, including his whole family and all of his friends. Big surprise, I'm sure. Debbie discovered the same and said, no big deal. She's not an alt-right white supremacist neo-Nazi or anything, just a run-of-the-mill conservative, so she figured there's not really all that much difference. Big surprise, Craig and his entire circle of family and friends don't see it that way. She's like literally Hitler. Okay, I added that. But they did view this as a huge chasm of difference while she didn't. Fast forward through blah, 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 shit I don't care about, and we find that the two of them can't even talk about politics because, in Craig's own words, he won't fucking shut up and listen to anything she says without cutting her off to make his point. I know, a liberal who won't actually listen. What a twist. Long story short, Debbie introduces Craig to the handy little term confirmation bias. And like magic, Craig realizes he's a close-minded fuckface who doesn't know half as much as he thinks he does and doesn't fucking listen to anything he doesn't already agree with. And just like that, ta-da! He starts listening instead of interrupting, and presto changeo, all is right in the world. Now they can talk calmly about politics without either of them turning into a douche nozzle and respect their difference of opinion. Amazing how that works, huh? However, as nice as this story may be, I'm still reminded of the title of this article and left wondering a very basic, simple question. What the fuck does that have to do with Trump, you shitheels? New York Magazine, you guys suck at your jobs, and damn you all for clickbaiting me into reading this shit. Your title has fuck all to do with anything in this article, you twat waffles. All right. We're running very long here, I know. And if I don't cut this off, I'll never get it recorded and uploaded. So let's just wrap up this week with some good old-fashioned toxic masculinity. Utah teacher allegedly kills ex-husband's girlfriend in front of 3-year-old kids. A Utah high school teacher was booked Monday for allegedly killing her ex-husband's girlfriend in front of her 2 3-year-old children. Chelsea Watrous Cook, 32, was visiting the apartment of her ex-husband, Travis Cook, in Midvale to bring cold medicine to one of their children, Fox 13 reported. Judging by the pictures, I'd have guessed more like 42, but then I'm notoriously bad at guessing ages. Still, looks older than 32, doesn't she? I mean, you tell me if it's just me on that one. Anyway, Travis Cook's new girlfriend, 26-year-old Lisa Williams, was inside the apartment. Oh, shit! Dumped your 32-year-old wife and picked up a 26-year-old girlfriend. Dude traded in for a younger model. That never ends well. Cook was reportedly asked to leave, but locked herself inside the bathroom. Once she left the bathroom, Cook appeared to walk toward her coat, but suddenly pulled out a handgun, according to the report. She allegedly shot 3 to 5 rounds at Williams. Travis Cook then reportedly grabbed the gun from his ex-wife and tended to Williams. When Cook tried to move back toward her coat, Travis Cook reportedly pinned her against the wall until authorities arrived on scene. The ex-husband told police that he and Cook's twin children were present during the alleged attack. See? Told you. His fault. Toxic male behavior. Used her up and tossed her aside for a younger version. What's a poor woman to do now, except, of course, go over there and shoot that damn girl 5 times. In front of her kids, too, so they know next time mommy says go to bed, she's not fucking around. Now, poor innocent Chelsea is going to serve time behind bars, and she didn't even do nothing. Fucking patriarchy wins again. That's it for this week, folks. Remember the social justice mantra: women are victims, men are oppressors, and feminism is just about equality. I'll see you all next time.